Hey, good morning and welcome to the Drummergy Podcast. I'm your host, Fred Rockfisher. Today, look who's here. It's Cliff Miller.
Hi, everybody.
Applause.
An applause track.
Yeah, you got to speak louder, though.
Oh, you need an applause track, I said.
That's right. So I intended to have Cliff on the show last week, and Cliff had a mishap with the tire driving here from Horseshoe Bend, Idaho. That's where Cliff lives. In case you didn't want people to know that. now
keeping it a secret. I wrote like 5 songs that mention it, so I think it's probably anyone who's listening to
Cliff,
knows.
Welcome, man.
Thanks, man.
Glad to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for having
me. I told Cliff before we went live, I said we're sitting so close, it's like we're riding in the car together, which we do a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway.
This is pretty familiar.
Me and Cliff spend a lot of time in the car traveling and doing music, and it's always a good time. So, Cliff, I go through a couple little goofy holidays to get things rolling.
I've seen.
To let people grab their coffee and settle into the show, and then they can ask their questions. So today is National Thank a Mail Carrier Day.
Oh.
So your mailman or your female man. One of my friends in high school saw a female mailman. Mail carrier. Is that more politically correct? I don't know. But he screamed, he saw her, and he's like, "Hey, check out the female man." And she just buckled over laughing.
It's pretty funny.
It was good.
Solid. It's kind of a dad joke. I like it.
Well, also, I decided that February 4th is Cliff Miller Day.
Aw, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciate that.
You're welcome. So Google and Wikipedia, get it together and make February 4th Cliff Miller Day.
Nationally recognized.
Nationally recognized, yes. I think you should get shirts that say Cliff Miller is my friend. and you could have t-shirts that say that. And then like February 4th on the back.
All right.
Yeah.
Get on it.
Make that happen, please.
Yeah.
Today is also Alice Cooper's birthday. Can you believe that guy is 77 years old?
I would have guessed like 85. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Alice Cooper.
For a guy who's 77 and he's out there and touring still and putting on a show like he does, it's really impressive. I think he definitely upstages many of the younger groups that are out there.
Yeah.
That guy knows how to put on a show. If you've never seen Alice Cooper live, you should do that before Alice Cooper's not around anymore. Hey, Chris Parks is here. He says, "Hi, Cliff. Hi, Fred."
Hey, how's it going, Chris?
Yo, Chris. So yeah, today is Alice Cooper's birthday. So it's things are good. Things are good. My leg is getting better.
Yeah.
6 months into this garbage, and I'm walking, but I walk with a pretty good limp, as you've seen.
Boy, it's coming along quick though. You're getting around. And
yeah,
I forget that it happened. You drum like a hat deck.
Oh, I appreciate that. Well, when I first started. When I first started drumming, it felt like I had a 10-pound weight attached to my leg, but it definitely feels, and it's not as swollen at the end of rehearsal as it has been either. So I am going to physical therapy. I got 5 more weeks of that to do, and they gave me a series of exercises and things to build up my quad muscle, which is that suffered the most as far as muscles go. So it's good stuff there. Before we dig in deep here with Cliff, I do want to say at the top of the show that Mr. Miller, Cliff Miller, the Cliff Miller music, the Cliff Miller band, you know what? I just prefer to say Cliff Miller. It's like having Garth Brooks here or any country artist that just uses their name.
Yeah, but didn't drive a Subaru here.
How do you know? Maybe they have a Subaru they drive. They could have a Subaru. Yeah. So this Saturday, February 8th at the Sapphire Room, are there tickets left?
Yes, I think I haven't counted. There's a few left. Every seat at Sapphire Room is good seats, so you don't have to worry about that end of it. But yeah, the tickets are getting really low, so we'd love to see everyone out there. It's one of my favorite shows of the year, every year.
And how do people on the local scene get tickets? Where's the go-to place for tickets?
An easy way to get there is to go to Cliff Miller Music socials. You can go to at Cliff Miller Music on Facebook or Instagram. And Instagram, the link is in the bio. And then on Facebook, we have a post pinned at the top of the page, and they can click on that. It'll take you to the Sapphire Room website with a direct link. Or you could just go to the Sapphire Room website and scroll through all the shows. But the quickest, easiest way is probably to go to our socials, and then that link's right there. So
awesome. I think when I looked, the tickets were getting low, and that's not meant to discourage you from getting tickets. It's meant to encourage you to do it before they're gone.
Yeah, it's we'd love to see the place sold out. It's getting darn close, and for us, it's always a super cool show.
I love it.
Do you mind if I pitch it for just a second?
No, go ahead. That's.
We'll do a couple of new originals that night, and we'll do several covers that people haven't heard us play. It's just a cool night where we focus on a lot of the music we've written and released, and focus on what the band does here at Fred's Drum Room, writing music. So.
Yeah. I posted a picture of my red DW kit, and I had also last week posted this 1967 Ludwig bass drum that I converted over to a kick drum. And so I'm using both those kick drums for the show at the Sapphire Room. And so my main kick has the normal kick drum sound, lots of attack, lots of punchy low end to it. But the 26-inch drum, I have it tuned more like a concert bass drum. So there's not a lot of attack. It's just this boom that happens, this really warm, really super low end kick drum sound. Well, more not kick drum, but concert bass drum sound. And I think it just matches so great with a lot of the more acoustic songs that we're going to be playing. And it's fun to play too.
Yeah, it's a really cool addition. It seems like it's not just like adding in. It's not a double kick, I guess. It's right. It's its own instrument, really.
Exactly.
So, very cool.
It's very wide. It takes up a lot of space width-wise. Speaking of size, I made a YouTube video about that bass drum. And I knew the moment I put the size in the order I put the size that somebody would say I put that order wrong. So it's 14 inches deep and it's 26 inches in diameter. And I've noticed that all the drum manufacturers will list the sizes of drums depth first and then the diameter second. And that always confused me because I was trying to figure out, like, how big is this drum exactly? Well, it turns out that if you Google search the proper way of listing the dimensions of anything, it's height first, then depth, and then width, or length and then width. And then in cylinder shaped objects, you always list the depth of that first and then the diameter. And it's like a construction what word was I'm looking for?
I got nothing.
Maybe I'll try more of this black juice called coffee.
So you learned something on the
I did, yeah. You guys can
Drummergy Podcast.
You guys can carry that around in your pocket all day. But it's normal to listen. Thank you, Mary. The producer's here. Standardized way of listing dimensions is to list depth first and then diameter on anything that's cylinder shaped. Wow. Deal. So there you go. If you guys didn't learn anything today, you should have learned that. Blue Flashes is here. Jake Harlan is here. Jake Harlan is a DCI drummer who plays the tenors or the quads, if you want to call him that. Very talented individual. He played with the Academy Drum and Bugle Corps last year, and I'm pretty sure he's auditioned for several other groups. So, Jake, I don't know where you are with all that, but good luck, man. You deserve all the success. And then Greg is here, and the producer, of course. Yahoo! You're not drinking as much coffee. See, this is why I'm all like, hey.
I'm just taking bigger drinks than you. I'm binge drinking this coffee.
All right. So February 8th, Cliff Miller, Sapphire Room. Go to Cliff Miller Music or Cliff Miller online, and you can find the information on that. And my good friend, ladies and gentlemen, Bart Robley has just popped up on the screen just in time, because also happening on February 8th in the afternoon. So those of you going to our show at the Sapphire Room, drummers, you would not be interrupted by this. I'm interrupted because I'll be doing sound check and those kind of things. But Bart Robley is doing a online masterclass from Riverside, California at Adams Drum Room. and it's only $35 to get on the Zoom masterclass with Bart. It's about an hour and a half, and it's all on the Moeller technique. So if you need more information on that or Cliff's show and you're having trouble, just message me and I'll help guide you through the steps to get there. So there you go, Bart. Now, Bart, don't bail on me.
Fred did his thing.
Fred did his thing. I'm back to lifting weights. I more often than not, Bart is at the gym right now, pumping iron.
I went to the gym once.
Was it to pick somebody up?
In high school. It was the wrong door.
It was the wrong door. That's hilarious. All right, so let's get into the life of Cliff. Let's kick this rock around and uncover what's under there and see what's happening.
Undercover the under. What are you talking about?
I don't even know. I was trying to make it like we're gonna leave no stone unturned in the life of Cliff Miller.
Like being in the car. We judge each other. We make fun of each other.
Oh, what exit were we supposed to take?
Are you asleep? Why aren't you listening? Stay awake. I have to stay awake. You have to stay awake.
It's like, oh, Cliff's telling his life story again. What else is new? All right. So Cliff, people on the local scene more than likely know who you are and your story and those kind of things. But my audience is global.
That's true.
And we're gonna
worldwide exposure.
We are going to do what most musicians do, who are media hungry musicians, and we want to talk about ourselves. So that's what we're gonna do today.
Perfect.
Awesome. So, one thing that sparked this question was, do you think that people are confused on what country music actually is? It seems like there's so many new elements in country music that, do you feel like labeling something country music has lost its meaning or has just become too broad stroke canvas for including everything and anything?
Yeah, I think I'm confused about exactly what or as far as how to tell people what I think, what my version of what I think country music is, or what I think if you say country music, it's probably similar to saying rock music at this point. Like, music has just gone in so many directions that, rock music to my dad who grew up listening to the Beatles is different than rock music to the kid that listens to Seven Dust,
Right.
Those are both going to fall under rock when you search it on Spotify or something. But
do you feel like that might be more like generational rock?
Yeah.
Like when Beatles got started, most of those bands kind of had that thing, and then when Led Zeppelin came around, everybody kind of had that thing, and so on. Like Southern rock has a certain sound to it. How would you classify the type of country music that you play?
I would say like country rock would be what I would call it. I don't know, that maybe Americana is thrown in there too, which that's such a overused term at this point, really. But it's country might be a little more divisive than the rock thing, I guess, because like there is a lot of contention over what country music is, and if you call it the wrong thing, I think. But if you go back to traditional country, the country you hear on the radio is, or at least on mainstream radio, is far from that. And the people that love traditional country don't call the mainstream country. Yeah,
most of us who either read the news or online, you would know this information even without watching the Grammys, but Beyonce winning country album of the year. I mean, good for her. That's no cut on Beyonce. What I think Beyonce is extremely talented in what she does, and I think she deserves everything that she gets. But there's always a but. I don't hear that music and think, as far as country goes, that she was more deserving of like a Chris Stapleton or somebody like that. Who
Lainey Wilson had an album released this year that's amazing.
Yeah, so I think that those people probably have deeper roots into the country music, like the legacy part of that, rather than Beyonce being like a pop artist and coming along, and now she kind of throws a little bit of that in there, and some boot stomping on the ground, kind of the stomp clap sort of thing.
Which is a joke. And I think people that are not that that's a joke, but it is a common joke that the stomp clap tracks almost make something not country at this point, because it's just kind of a trope to try and appease it's kind of a pandering technique to try and make something sound country. Like you're trying to make it sound down home.
Right.
And I think the Beyonce album's a perfect example of what you were asking. Like, it's not that I went and listened to it. I wasn't familiar with the album at all, but after she won it and I saw the controversy over what's country and what's not, a lot of people would say a lot of the music I write isn't necessarily country, but I think it falls into that country rock genre where country is the easiest way to explain it. But her album is to when I listened to it, I didn't hear really any elements of country at all. To me, it just sounded like a pop album.
That's how I felt too. I haven't listened. There's one track in which I cannot think of the name. If the producer wants to weigh in, I'm sure she'll correct me. That's her way. There was a song from Beyonce that was out there, and we all belong to that Taxi group, where, if you guys don't know what Taxi is, we've talked about that before, but they're kind of a filter system for people who need to curate music for film and TV. And so they were looking for a song that was similar to that Beyonce song that was kind of a big thing. I don't know, like 6 months ago, maybe a little bit longer than that. I live in a time warp, so I can't remember exactly, but trying to recreate Texas Hold'em. See there, I knew she would know. Mary doesn't forget anything. She's like that.
I think the not to derail what you're getting on there with the thing that it's kind of funny. People get really wrapped up into, like, was Beyonce deserving or not, like in social media the last day or whatever, since she won that Grammy. But at the same time, a lot of people are chiming in saying it's no less country than a lot of what's on popular country radio right now. Like, a lot of it has just turned into pop music. So
yeah, I made a note here, like there tends to be elements like hip hop and rap. Those kind of elements are seem to be funneled into that country umbrella more and more and more, and that it just seems like the identity of that music is getting lost.
Sorry, just reading a comment.
Oh, go.
I just reading Greg's comment.
Oh, you can
country has become a refuge of many ex-rockers, which is kind of funny because Greg and I both play in country music bands now, or what we would call country.
Yeah,
I think Greg plays a little everything, or can play everything, obviously. But when we both, like, I knew Greg back when we were both a lot younger, and we both played in rock bands, and here we are playing country music.
Yeah, well, same.
Yeah,
same. I think my home base for style wise has always been rock or hard rock, and I grew up in the 80s, so the whole hair band days, that was the thing that was popular as I was growing up. And I think most of us have a love for the music that we grew up with, and you can look back at that music, or people who are younger will look back at that music and kind of laugh at it or whatever, and sometimes rightfully so, because it just seems silly now compared to what it was perceived like then. So I'd be curious what country music is going to evolve into in the next 10 or 15 years. Like, will it ever return back to the Johnny Cash, the Waylon Jennings, the Willie Nelson, those kind of things? I think
there are actually a lot of great bands that kind of honor that style, and even make it their own. They don't just refry what already existed. So I think that's the one cool thing about streaming and so much good music being out, is if you dig, you can find stuff that is really true to the original. They call it outlaw country or whatever, the classic country. Those things are existing, and bands are making that music right now.
Yeah, definitely. What I like about you specifically is your authenticity as a person and as a performer and as a songwriter, is that nothing is, you're not chasing a trend necessarily. You're not trying to figure out what's popular and then how do I write something that fits that. You just write.
Yeah, and that's kind of how I got in the country. It's a writing style change for me. It wasn't trying to become a country artist. It was getting a little older and having kids. The lyrical content was starting to change, and I was just writing songs that didn't. What did I tell? When we were playing in the rock band together, and we were starting writing some of those songs, I'm like, I'm just not as mad as I was when I was
yeah.
Or I'm mad about new things.
I'm
like
not
traffic.
I'm not a young angry man anymore.
I've got different things to be mad and sad about.
Yeah, it's there's a different kind of mad when you're 18 versus being an adult and you have to pay that mortgage every month.
Yeah, or you got lots of new things to be happy about that just were different. And to me, that's where the music style just followed that. And maybe that's why it's not like necessarily just country. It's more just a stylistic thing. And I was still writing with you an awful lot, so there's still a lot of rock element to that. But
yeah.
I'm derailing you constantly.
You're not at all. This is how this is supposed to happen. We're doing it live. I mentioned the authenticity thing, and then putting different elements into music, and now it's under that country umbrella, like adding a twang to your voice or whatever. And we've played a lot of shows with different bands, and when you're hanging out with Cliff, just like we are now, Cliff just talks how he talks, and then when he gets on stage, he's still Cliff and talks how Cliff talks and sings how Cliff sings. But we've seen so many times that you're backstage and you might be opening up for a band or whatever, and the singer's like, "Hey man, how's it going?" And they're talking just like this, and then the moment they step on stage, they're like, "Hey y'all, how's everyone doing?" This totally manufactured fake
you're from Texas
Southern accent. And it's just like, oh man, can't you just be you? Can't you just be you and do your thing and avoid all? So that's where I feel like it becomes a little prefabricated stuff that's happening, which I guess works for some people. It rubs me the wrong way a little bit. It's like, man, can't you just
and it's
just
funny
be
too,
your person?
Back to like what's country and what's not. I try not to get too involved in that debate. There might be albums I just don't care for. It's not necessarily because they're the wrong kind of country. It's not my style. And and that might turn out to be a lot of bands that people would call fake country or whatever. But when people do the fake drawl, or when that costume gets put on, I'm feeling really judgy now.
I'm judgy, so.
But that kind of, so when people really hate on something like the pop country or Beyonce doing a country album, I can understand stylistically people not liking that, but it always kind of makes me laugh when this people that put on the other costume are mad at the non-authentic people are mad at the other non-authentic people. Does that make sense?
It does make sense.
And not to say that I've written songs that weren't about things that personal experiences, necessarily just stories that I came up with in my head. But I don't know. I always think.
Well, I don't think that's being like a. I think good songs have good storytelling in them. I've mentioned on the show so many times that I'm a lyrics guy. I love lyrics. I love vocal melody, and that really helps me define what I'm going to play on the drums. Maybe when we're first flushing out a song, it doesn't matter what band I'm playing with. A lot of times you hear like a guitar riff first or whatever. And so you vibe off of that and you start creating. But once the vocals start coming in and I hear that, like Anthony's pretty good about this with Midline, is he'll just start singing like a harmony thing, but not actually words, just kind of singing out a melody and phrasing. And so that helps kind of put the parameters on songwriting for me, and the emotion that starts to get put into there, and then you kind of massage that song, and man, I just went really off the rails. Let's talk about me some more.
No, that's all. You do a good job. I think what you're describing is a good quality of yours when it comes to writing. It makes writing with you flow well.
Thank you. I guess my point was like lyrics and melody are really important to me. They used to not be so much when I was younger. And I think that kind of goes with age and maturing as a musician too, is having that musical awareness so that I can still do my thing drum wise and I can put in a cool lick that I learned or whatever, but it fits more appropriately in the song now rather than just, hey, I haven't hit that cymbal in 4 bars, or I haven't played drum fill yet in this song. Well, some songs don't need a drum fill, and some songs need lots of crazy drumming. It's figuring out how to be appropriate in your songwriting and playing.
I just seen that comment from James Harrison. The marketing requires some kind of label or category. That's our good friend Matt Vanderbo.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know about Matt Vanderbo, he's super successful. I'm sure you've talked about Matt before.
I have, and he's popped up in the comments a couple times. Not today yet, but maybe he will.
Something he always makes a point when you're submitting music like to taxi listings or for TV or whatever. No one wants to label themselves, but it is necessary because sometimes it's hard to find the correct label. Maybe it's good to reach out to someone else to help you do that, because a writer doesn't necessarily want to try and pigeonhole their song, but you do have to. Labeling is important. Having a label for your style is important, especially when you're submitting for like TV listings and stuff. You have to know what you're calling. But so many artists just want to, like, well, what do you play? Well, I play jazz, fusion, country. Folk.
Yeah, what is that?
They don't want to have to call themselves something, especially independent artists. But it does have labeling has its place, and I guess that's where people maybe start to fight about the label and what's correct. And
I think that's a really good point. Is if somebody finds out I'm a drummer, or if somebody finds out you're a singer and a guitar player, what style of music do you play? That's like one of the top questions, and then all of a sudden you're like, all of them. No, I always say I'm primarily a rock drummer. And so back to our earlier discussion, like, well, what does rock entail? It's such a huge, broad or a big umbrella to something of smaller genres and things like that, which go back to Matt Vanderbo, and the taxi listing is zeroing down more and more and more on exactly what it is that you're putting out there. What does Greg have to say? Greg says, what I find absolutely hilarious at a particular show at an unnamed venue, one of the local support artists was talking trash about new country, bro country, when all of the touring bands on the bill were just that. Did somebody smack him in the face, Greg, when he was talking trash? Trash talkers.
Yeah, that's with all the things to be mad about in the world, the one, like, the debate over, man, country music, maybe it's because I'm getting billed with other country bands and that's kind of the world we're in. But boy, I understand the debate, but I don't understand the anger of people.
Yeah.
That's not real country, or that is real country, or don't go stomp clapping or whatever. It's you don't have to agree with it, but it's a really silly thing to be mad about. Just let people listen to the music.
You're absolutely right. Of all the things in the world to be mad about, that's your concern. Now, I say all that because I could look at myself in the mirror, because over the last 2 years, I've made so many comments about, like, not wearing shorts on stage and looking good, like look like you belong on stage. And not that it makes me mad. I could go way a different direction, but I'm going to try not to.
Yeah, don't.
Greg says Colt Ford made fun of them on stage.
Yeah, okay. That's one of the Nationals.
okay.
I'm guessing that's the show that happened at. That's funny. Gotta have a sense of humor about those things, I think.
Yeah, for sure. Midline was opening up for a band. I don't want to tell you which band it was, because they're actually a really great band, but they were a band that had a lot of makeup on, lots of eyeliner and things like that. And I had a black T-shirt on that in big letters said, "I don't wear makeup."
Oh.
And I played
this. They were getting ready to loan you their lipstick.
I played the show wearing that shirt. Said, "I don't wear makeup," and it was something I made at home. I took white duct tape and made 3 stripes on my shirt, and then black Sharpie marker. I wrote in, "I don't wear makeup." And then I'm standing at our merch booth next to their guitar player, and we're taking our pictures together. And I've got this shirt on, and he's got this makeup that's running because he's been sweating.
Very sad.
It was hilarious. I don't wear makeup. All right, so Cliff. It's bring a friend to dinner night. seem to have lost my friend. You guys know what movie that is from?
Yeah.
Finding Nemo.
Oh.
Where the shark is like, I seem to misplace my friend. And when he goes, friend, the little scales of the fish come out of his mouth. Yeah. Totally derailed. So where did you grow up, Mr. Miller?
Horseshoe Bend. Been there my whole life, other than, born in Boise because they don't have a hospital in Horseshoe Bend.
Oh, well.
And then for a couple of years out of high school, I lived in Boise. But, I've been Horseshoe Bend. Got songs about that, too.
You're just a horseshoe. So what is the appeal?
Nothing. Don't move there. Stay away.
What is the reason to live
No,
there?
I really do love it. When you've grown up in a small town, that's there's a charm to it that you can't find elsewhere, I suppose.
Sure.
So
yeah.
And I just have a lot of family there. I mean, that's where my roots are for sure. And when I was right out of high school, I wanted to tour the world, but I've gotten to do a lot of traveling with bands. So, and whenever I'm in a big city, I think I'm glad I don't live in a big city. So,
yeah.
And it's close to Boise, so it's not, it's not like I don't have to take a plane to get groceries or anything. But
well, it's just far enough out of the city that you feel like I can breathe here.
Yeah.
And things move just a little bit slower and things don't seem to be as urgent, maybe.
Yeah. And everything's still urgent.
Everything's still urgent.
That's just my personality.
Oh,
everything's
okay.
very urgent. But, I just always, what's the appeal? What would you guess the appeal is? You just said it all, I think. But yeah, it's,
well, I grew up in Caldwell, Idaho, which is bigger than Horseshoe Bend. But, when I was younger, it was primarily a farming community. And I remember whenever we'd go to Boise for something wasn't often, but just going to Boise was like, whoa, there's tall buildings here. And of course, all that's changed. It's really amplified now because it's growing.
Do you remember the old Highway 55?
Yeah, I do.
The windy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was what we took as a kid before they built the new highway. So
right.
It used to be quite the trip to go to town. And town was a lot further. Like you'd hit Eagle and it's a small little community. Then you'd hit farm fields all the way down State Street until you hit Glenwood. Back in my day.
Yep. James Harrison says, roots, small town, family sounds like country.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably why. Yeah, maybe that's why I started playing country music. Like, what do I know about rock music? My town has 700 people in it.
Yeah. When did you get started in music? Like, how old were you? Did your parents play a role in influencing you in music in some way?
Absolutely. My mom sang in choir when I was with her. Usually at Saturdays and Sundays, she'd be practicing with choir or whatever. I'd be there with her in a very small church in Horseshoe Bend. And then my dad played for a living for a lot of his life. He wasn't still playing for a living when I was born, but we had instruments laying around. So music was always around me, and I loved to sing. I actually did the first 2 live performances I ever did were talent shows where I had my dad play guitar, and I actually asked my dad to sing lead because I loved singing harmony at the time. So I would do harmony through the entire thing. We just, it wasn't like I was just coming in on choruses or something, but, and then I also took piano lessons when I was a kid, which I hated.
I think most kids seem to be forced into taking piano lessons at some point in their life.
I chose to, but my parents told me if you start it, you're going to finish this whole program, which I'm glad they did. I mean,
okay.
A huge base from my musical knowledge, I think, moving on. But yeah, that was about 4 years old. I think I took piano lessons 4 to 8 or something like that. I'm really glad I did. So yeah, my parents said there was always music around the house, and my dad offered to let me play guitar at a young age too, and said he'd show me stuff. I just wasn't that interested. And then about, middle school years, I started listening to rock music, picking my own music, and classic for a kid my age, probably Nirvana, Everclear.
Did your parents look down on you for that music?
Not at all, actually.
Okay, good.
My parents were really, a lot of that mid-90s had really cool, if you listen to Nirvana, the chord progressions are really cool, kind of Beatle-esque chord progressions. And my dad loved the Beatles. So no, they liked a lot of the music we liked.
Because it's pretty typical for, young kids or early teens or teenagers to be listening to the music that their parents are like, why are you listening to that garbage, that noise or whatever? So you didn't experience that.
No, not
That's
for the
awesome.
most. And I liked a lot of their music as well. So it was, that was never an issue at all.
Yeah.
I suppose when I do have, when I started playing heavier stuff and, where there's maybe some screaming in Abrupt Edge and Cure for the Fall, those bands, I did the occasional screams.
Yeah. Well, I love that though.
Called. But that my parents might have, why are you doing that? Why do you stop singing to make an obnoxious noise for a second?
Let's talk about the scream thing for a second. I am not a singer. I have no gift or talent or anything in that department. If I try to sing something and it sounds good, I got lucky. I got really, really lucky.
Tripped and fell on the right note.
Yep, exactly. And it's like it's probably like gambling. I lose every time. And then when you win 5 cents, you're like, wow, look what I did. And it comes and goes so quick so that's how it is for me singing. And I do wish that I had some ability in that department, but when you live with the producer, I mean, it's just like, I just give up. But what I want to know is, how do you do the scream thing? You probably really haven't done that in a while.
I haven't done that in a while. I don't know.
But how do you do it without wrecking your voice?
It's not as well if you do it right, which it's funny to say proper technique of screaming because it sounds like you're just making noise. Well,
guys have to be able to do that because, I mean, especially bands that are on the road and they're doing 40 some dates in a period of a few months or whatever that is, that my stomach just went. They have to do that in a way that they're not one show and you're done thing.
Yeah, the first couple of times I tried it, because some of the bands I really liked had that element in there, and we didn't have it heavily in the music. It would just be little instances. I liked it as like a little instrumental break almost.
Yeah.
But if you do it wrong, it wrecks your voice immediately. Like, I mean, you can blow your voice out instantly.
Yeah.
But once you kind of figure out that technique, which I don't even really know how to explain how that happened, I just kind of got it down. But once you get that technique down, it isn't nearly as aggressive, or it's aggressive. It's not nearly as detrimental as it sounds. It's just like another vocal technique. But I can't tell you how you do that.
Now, you grew up in a house of music. You said your mom sang in choir. Did you get any lessons or coaching from mom on how to sing?
I watched her. She would do, she always did a vocal warm-up, which I've never started that habit. I probably should. Every time I have a rough show, someone comes like, did you do any warm-up? No, I didn't. I was too busy doing paperwork and setting up merch and all those things. But yeah, she had certain vocal warm-ups that were really helpful. And she kind of taught me how to sing for my diaphragm.
Mm-hmm.
But no official lessons.
So even outside so no official lessons from anybody.
I did. No, that's not true. I did take a month of lessons when I was right out of high school. When I first started wanting to pursue this and I was doing 4-hour shows, my parents recommended, like, it was Sam Alkire and myself kind of split the vocal duty, but I probably did more of the songs than he did. And they recommended, if you're going to be doing this, the hours a night, you want to be doing it properly, because you're not going to be able to play 3, 4, 5 nights in a row if you're not.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And I still don't always do it properly, but those things did help a lot.
Well, do you, I played with you for a long time now in a hard rock band, and now with this. So how long it's
long time. 15 years solidly.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's awesome. But I mean, through all that time and the different styles of music that we played together, I know that you've had voice trouble only for a couple reasons. One is maybe you got a cold, like that'll slow you down, or an allergy type thing will be happening. And even then, you still perform pretty well. What would be your advice for singers out there who just generally struggle at singing? Like, maybe they're always singing from their throat and now they're straining their throat, or like, what would you recommend those people do?
Oh man, there's a a lot of things that can go into that. There's a few simple things like learn how to sing from your diaphragm rather than your throat. And this was like maybe the best little piece of knowledge Anthony, singer in Midline, gave me. So when you have to sing loud, sing like you're shouting across a room, like at the back of a gym, like, hey. And that kind of teaches you to push from your diaphragm because most people can, if they need to get someone's attention 100 yards away, and they don't do it from their throat, they kind of bring it up from their chest and he'll hit that. And that was a super helpful little tidbit from Anthony that has always stuck, and it allowed me to project loud and with some command in my voice. I don't know what it was. It just really simplified that diaphragm thing. To try and
because it changes like where the air is coming from,
and everybody knows how to do it. It's just a natural thing that your body does when you need to project across that. But when you get up to a mic, you don't really, you feel like you shouldn't be shouting at it. But that brings the next thing is mic technique. Like proper mic technique can make you project in the right times and places. Or if you really I used to really struggle hitting low notes because I felt like I had to hit low notes in my heavy, like my full power voice. But you can almost treat low notes. At least I do this. I'm not an expert, but almost like you would falsetto. You really get up on the mic, and that way you're not trying to boom those low notes out, and that kind of helps give them some body rather than thinning them out to the same.
Yeah.
Is that did I answer that question?
I think so. I was just curious, like what your view was on that, and
one of the problems for me is I like to write at the top of my range. We've talked about this in the band a lot, whether it's rock music or country. I like the way my voice feels at that pushed level.
Yeah.
So I'll always write like just at the top of my vocal range. And that can be exhausting in a 2-hour set when everything's up there the whole time and you're pushing. That can really wear you out.
Well, it's different if you have to play that song once. But if you have 50 songs you need to play that night, it's like, we're gonna play this in a lower key.
And that's what the vocal coach I did have for that month, one of the things she said to me is, you need to make sure that if you're doing 4 hours show, you let the band carry some of that burden, or you give yourself you write in easy vocal songs so you can actually take it. Even if you're still singing, you're taking a 3 or 4 minute rest where you're singing something that's not so hard on your voice.
Well, even a few minutes ago, I said I've become a real lyrics and melody person. Like I've never in my life have I paid attention to vocals as much as I do now. And I've had to say in different bands, we need to play in a key the singer can sing in and can sing well. You know, I think as people get older, their voices change. You know, it's harder to sing in those higher registers. And you have to go, this song is too high for me to sing. We need to play this in a different key. We got to drop it a half step or a whole step or whatever that needs. And I, as a drummer, am aware of that. How come the melodic instruments aren't going, hey, the singer can't sing this. Let's drop that down.
Yeah, that's a tough thing because that's important that you have to do it. And I think that's especially as you age, like you said, things vocally change. Vocals are a physical instrument, and so are drums. Or any instrument can be, but you can tune a guitar,
right?
And you can get it where you want. You can't.
Well, your instrument's right here.
Yeah, and it is affected by your day and what you ate and what you drank and if you have a cold and how old you are and all those things. With a guitar, a guitar's not going to crack if it doesn't have enough water.
Well,
maybe.
Yeah. Well, when you go out and you're on the road, the longest I've been on the road in one stretch was 7 months, and I watched that take a toll on the singer in the band, and then another band I was on the road for 3 months, and just the care of your voice is so important, and then the ability to sing. I mean, that's the first thing that at least I notice when I see a band play is who's fronting the band, the singer, and if the singer isn't good, it seems like nothing else will be. It's like the singer has to be really, really good, at least in my opinion.
Yeah, and there's just some realities you have to deal with as working musicians who have day jobs, which your day job is drumming. So,
yes.
And I'm fortunate to have music as a pretty big part of my.
You're pretty close
income too, but
you're pretty close to being just full time.
You're gonna have days where you worked and had an allergy attack, and then you had to go to a gig after that. Where like someone who's a touring musician can maybe pamper their voice for that day because their entire job for that day is singing that night. Same with, I remember talking to Sam about this back. We'd listen to a band we really loved, and I'd really just kind of be envious, in a good way, but envious of their songwriting. Like, why didn't I come up with that? Sam would be like, because this is what they do all the time. This is their job.
Yeah.
Like, they're focused on they didn't have to go to work today. They didn't have to go to school today. They didn't have to.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of life factors that can.
And especially vocally. So if you ever hear one of your favorite local bands have a rough vocal night, this is a public service announcement for all the local singers out there, or even singers anywhere, but it could be, sometimes there's just something. Yeah. It's a physical muscle, and it can get derailed by the day's events.
Let's catch up on a few comments here. Matt's Music Minute. That's Matt Vanderbo. What's up, guys? This is a great start to my Tuesday morning. Sup, Cliff?
Hey, Matt.
Greg says the disturbed Rob Zombie voice comes from the drop chest and not the vocal cords, less voice box, more
muscularity,
deep
chest.
Yeah.
Not drop chest.
And then James Harrison says, interesting that during the 90s country explosion, Garth Brooks, Alan Jackson, Clint Black, and many others were labeled as hat act country. Now they're considered classic or traditional. Yeah.
There you go.
It's just, like I said, it's like, well, in 10 or 15 years, how is that going to be viewed? Then he said Elton John dropped the keys for many of his songs later. Yeah. And then Tejano Outlaw. I never say that right. I'm pretty sure that's Anthony Antunes. I've been feeling the effects of age in my voice lately. Getting sleep.
Sleep is huge.
Yeah.
That's one I forget about. Like, if we're out for 4 or 5 days and we're all just hanging and having a good time chat. But it's amazing how much that revives you.
Yeah. And, so we travel quite a bit, and many times Cliff will find like a Airbnb for us to stay in, which is awesome. I highly recommend that over hotels. Yeah. But we'll get done with the show and go back to the Airbnb, and we'll all sit in the kitchen for hours having a couple drinks and just talking and
eating way too many
snacks. Yes. Pretzels and chips and, the party foods,
all the healthy stuff.
But I get up the next morning and I can be a little groggy or whatever. But the effect that has on you for the next night, it's like, guys, I'm not going to be talking for a while. Okay. Don't talk to me.
Yeah. It's crazy too. It's so hard. It's almost, it's just hard to take yourself out of that fun at the end of the night.
And it's not that we're really partying, like,
no, we're
in the traditional sense of, what bands would typically be referred to as partying, but it's just the late night hang. Like,
and we're fired up about the show. We're discussing how the show went, and usually we're pretty excited because you're hanging out with your friends on stage doing the thing that you spend all this time planning to do. So it's kind of like it's just a celebration, and it's really hard to wind down. But there are nights where I'm like, oh man, tomorrow's gonna suck because we've been talking for 3 hours now, and
the wind down. Yeah. For me, that's a big step, like decompressing, because you spent your whole day, maybe we were traveling, and then you get to the show and you're unloading the trailer and you're getting the gear set up and you do sound check and all of that stuff. And then if you were fortunate enough to have time between then and the show starting, you might escape to go take a little quick nap or something, and then you play the show. So it's all day. You're go. Then you play the show, and you have this great time, and you've loaded out, and now you're finally back to your room or the Airbnb, and it's like, how's it going?
Yeah, exactly. It's the first time you really get to kind of like visit with a non-business conversation.
Exactly.
But I like how you said quick nap, because Fred will. There's been a few shows where maybe we had already sound checked and we were at the same venue 2 days in a row or something. I'm going to take a quick nap at noon. And it'll be like, there was one in particular. It was like, we start at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock and it's 7 o'clock and I'm knocking on Fred's door.
Yeah.
For like 5 minutes and finally shouting, Fred. He comes up pulls up his eye. What is that thing?
I wear a sleep mask during the day if I have to take a nap. Yeah.
He was in a full-blown
I was out.
Night of sleep.
And you were just laughing when it
took you like a good hour to wake up.
I look like Doc from Back to the Future. My hair is just like
a quick nap for Fred can quickly turn into
hours.
Yeah,
hours. Yeah, well, the producer was with us when we did the Gooding Rodeo. That's usually like a 3-night deal, and Mary had the van parked around back behind the stage. Well, Sam was playing with us, and he had his RV camper thing there, and I was so wiped out. And it was 100 and some degrees out. I had the doors open, and I just went in there, and boom, gone. I can go to sleep, no problem. Let's see. So James says his vocal range is 3 notes. Yes. Well, he's a drummer. James, you have more notes in your vocal range than I do. The producer says good sleep and not talking. Lots of talking kills my voice, especially if it's in a loud environment. Yeah. Fred has not mastered the power nap. That usually is only about 30 minutes. It's like a power sleep.
Yeah.
I can go to Never Neverland in a moment's notice.
Yeah.
That's where so we've got Cliff Miller on the show, who's a singer, guitar player, songwriter. What does that have to do with drums? Almost nothing. But a lot to do about music. So this show is not just drums, but we had rehearsal last night, and Cliff says, well, what's the difference between a DW 5000 pedal and a DW 9000 pedal? And you said
it's clearly 4,000 better.
It's 4,000 better. Yes, exactly. So I don't really want to turn this into like a Fred thing necessarily, just more generally speaking. It's
your show, buddy. Let's do it.
No, I know, but it was like I started as like, this is an opportunity for media hungry musicians to talk about themselves. And I'm like one of those guys with flashing lights all over me. Oh, look at the attention grabber guy.
Let's do it.
You could see me in a dark room easily. What are your expectations as a musician that you want to have from a drummer or a rhythm section? Like what's important to you from that a drummer's giving you? I'm not the only drummer you've played with.
Yeah. I'm trying to think how to say this. You said it earlier and I can't think of the word now. Awareness, song awareness. Where to have the song rise and fall, where the drums are meant to shine, and where they're just so parts aren't stomping on each other. It's very hard to sing or play a part and have it buried by and this isn't just for drums. This is any musician in the band being too busy when they playing at inappropriate times, I guess. So I like a drummer to have an awareness of where they're meant to kind of where the song calls for them to bring the song up or down, because drums can really set the pace for the mood. And all the instruments have something to do with that, but the feel of the drummer can decide whether the song just kind of marches along or whether it feels that's why I think it's cool that you listen to the lyrics, because you know if something's like supposed to be a soft touching moment, kind of where it's supposed to simmer down a little bit.
Yeah.
If someone's unaware of the lyrical content, they might just march right through the thing and not really ever get a feel for it. So that's a big one, is awareness of what the song calls for is a huge one. And I love when the drum and bass player are in the pocket together. That's you and Alf play super well together. I've been lucky to play with a lot of great musicians. The two of you together have a way of locking in and just reading each other's cues. You guys will write stuff on the fly, I think, which is amazing. Like you guys will make eye contact and the song will have a new part all of a sudden. Like, what just happened?
Alfred and I have always had this musical connection from the day we met, which has now been 30 years ago. And the moment I got in a room with him and started playing music, it was like our minds were connected. And I think that's a really hard thing to find with other musicians, where you just have this thing that works. Yeah. And it's not something that's discussed beforehand. And it's a real appreciation for each other as friends, for one. And then he's a guy that really listens to drums, and I'm a guy that really listens to bass. And so those two things, and we just through telepathy almost, hey, this part's kind of going to come up and I'm going to do this thing. And I'm like, okay. Yeah. Or vice versa. It's strange and it's beautiful and it's wonderful. When the drums and bass aren't clicking, how does that affect you as a singer, especially like performing?
A singer and a rhythm guitar player, those two things, it affects me, especially since I'm the rhythm guitar player. I do some lead, but we usually have an additional lead player in the band, whether it's fiddle or guitar, usually fiddle. I love fiddle. I'm going to derail myself.
No, go ahead.
But because I really, if the bass player and the drummer aren't in the same room together, mentally speaking, I feel like I really have to be the metronome and the song, which is fine, because I do a lot of acoustic shows, so I'm used to carrying that load, but it takes me out of the game of just singing and doing my part as much if I have to kind of try and lock the two together. If I have to be the glue between the bass and drummer, I'm now the rhythm section, or part of the rhythm section, in a bigger way than I usually would have to be if they were locked together.
You feel like that's a heavier demand on you, and maybe something where part of your mind is like permanently focused on that throughout.
Yes, and that might be the something I didn't notice before, but like playing with you and Alf, or you and Mark, you guys all play together really well. So when I'm playing with those lineups that are like the practice lineup, it's I don't have to think about so much stuff. I might not have noticed it before when I was younger, just playing with guys that were learning how to play at the time, including myself. But when I'm playing with a really tight rhythm section, I can, if I have to tune, it doesn't become a distraction. Or if I have to grab something to drink real quick or whatever, if I have to make an adjustment on my end, I can just focus on that rather than.
Yeah, I think for me, when I'm sitting in the drummer position, as I would sit in any other position, you're playing your songs. You want awareness of the song you're playing and play appropriate and play in time and all of those things. But it's being aware of what's happening around you in the moment, is recognizing if somebody on stage is having an issue, like especially if it's like a technical difficulty or maybe you just need the drums and bass to vamp for like on an intro while you pause for a second and grab a drink or whatever. And without going, oh, there's a problem, and then suddenly stopping. Oh, show can't go on. There's a mistake that's happening. It's being aware that, hey, I'm just going to keep time and I'm going to keep playing, and this is going to turn into something. This is just happening in the moment, and then when it comes back around, then you're back in. If that makes sense. Yeah. Having the awareness around. Greg has a comment. Greg says, I want drums to be more than just a timekeeper. I want the drummer to play the song. I want to hear drum parts that punctuate what's going on and make me go, wow. I also prefer to have a drummer who plays at a higher skill level than myself.
That's a great point, and that goes to your point about actually listening to the lyrics. Like Fred's great about he learns the lyrics so he can accent and punctuate and simmer it down when it needs to simmer down, excite it when it needs excited.
So many times not really with you so much. Anthony has done this quite a bit, and other singers I've played with, where they'll go to sing and they'll turn around and look at me and go, I don't know the words.
Oh, you're being friendly. I've done that plenty of times.
and I'll just mouth whatever that lyric is, and they'll give me a thumbs up, and they turn around and boom.
You've done that for me for sure.
You just need that little primer word to make it work. And I think that's how songs develop playing live too. Because you can write and record a song pretty quickly, or even a song that took massaging for a while to get recorded, and then you start playing it, and then things arise, things that happen when you're playing live, where maybe you extend a part of the song a little bit longer, or it became shorter, or maybe stuff drops out more or whatever. And sometimes those things evolve just out of the moment, and then you really like that moment, so then that song starts to morph into something a little bit different than the recording. Becomes the live version. And I think those are really, really cool too. And sometimes, when you're singing, you might just think maybe you're injecting a little bit more emotion into this song than normal. And I'll sense that just because I'll hear how you're singing. and I might be able to amp that up a little bit more through the drums or pull it back depending on which direction that's going. And I think that's a really cool thing. And that's listening is so crucial.
Yeah, and that show awareness. Sometimes something will pop in my head, and maybe I hear a segue that we've never done, but it's the right segue. And you're really good about paying attention to what's happening at the end. Maybe the set list calls for something to happen, and your click's already there, but I'll hear something, and I'll just go into it. And you're super good about just being able to reset. That's not like you have to be programmed. And the awareness thing, I wanted to mention this too, because this is, I think, probably the least fun thing for most drummers. Is having to learn to play to the room, like the size of the room, volume specifically.
Yeah.
Because drums are an instrument that sounds right played with a certain intensity.
Right.
If you're recording, most good engineers and producers are going to tell you, like, hit the drum for its full.
Yeah, you want to get the full value or the full. You want that quality of sound to happen, and a lot of times it's hard to achieve by playing in a mousy kind of way.
And so I know it's not fun for drummers to have to do that, but it's appreciated because some venues it's just required. And someone's willingness to and not just willingness to do it, but ability to still make the songs pop while playing in a subdued way. And so that's another quality in the drummer that I think is super important that you've been great about.
Well, thank you. I think it's important for all the musicians in the band too, to be aware of the circumstances that you're in and make a commitment before it even happens that I'm part of this team. I'm representing the Cliff Miller brand, since it's a Cliff Miller show today. Today's Cliff Miller Day. Is no matter who I'm playing with, I'm representing that person or that band at that time. And so I don't want to walk into a situation or a situation arises that maybe is not so favorable, or it's so circumstantial. You can't control the people that are around you or certain things that happen, and not throw a tantrum publicly or you and I have butted heads before.
What?
Yes. As most friends do at some point, you can have a disagreement, and I call it the FU relationship.
That's what you refer to our friendship as.
Well, no, married couples are good at this, is that you feel so safe around these people that you can say whatever you want and know that it's not going to destroy that friendship or your relationship with your spouse. And so, but in the context of playing music, like if there's something I'm not happy about, I don't need to get in your face in front of people and hash it out then.
Yeah.
I can go, I don't really like this situation. I'm going to discuss this with whoever later, and just make the best of what's happening at that moment. And then, generally speaking, by the time it comes back around to where you want to talk about that thing, everybody's calmed down so much. Or maybe that person that you thought you had a thing with, they weren't even aware that it was a thing. And so then you don't have this unnecessary drama that's unfolding in front of people. So it's not just awareness on stage of like what's happening. It's like what's happening with the audience, what's happening with the venue, what's, just people in general, and having that.
Yeah, it kind of takes me back to something, one of your topics a few weeks ago. I know you hate to refer to you're not at the office.
Right. Yes.
But I think looking at it like you are working.
Well, absolutely.
And so I think that can, if you can keep that mindset, which is tough because music is something any musician, whether it's just a hobbyist or someone trying to make a living at it, the reason you love it is like what it invokes in you and you're passionate about it.
Yeah.
But remembering that you are at work if someone's paying you to be there. So not hashing it out in front of everybody, understanding the value of playing to the proper volume for the venue. Because that is something that I think is tough for people maybe that come from playing rock shows or just playing in the garage band where you buy your Mesa Bookie triple rectifier with 150 watt amp and you want to crank that thing. I've been there. We've all been there. Sometimes musicians don't want to be told that they're not that you're too loud, that you're not it's not just about what you love to do right this second. It's about helping people enjoy what you love to do. So you want to be able to bring everybody in without blasting them out of the room.
Well, I'm sure you're well aware of some of these musicians that are out there. They are gonna demand that they do their thing no matter where they are or what they're doing. They have to have it their way. It's like there's no compromise. And those people become very, very difficult to deal with. And I think that those people will have like a shorter lived experience in whatever they're doing than saying, oh, we're playing here. I don't need all of this stuff, or I'm here to help. I'm here to solve problems. What can I do to help? What do I need to do to make this successful? And sometimes that's to say, I'm going to play quieter, or I'm going to put a towel on my snare drum, or whatever it is. I just want the experience to be the best experience that's going to be, whatever that means in that situation.
Yeah, and ultimately you want them to enjoy the music. So right. If that you don't want something to be a distraction,
people are leaving like,
yeah, you just don't want something to become a distraction unnecessarily. I think because the whole point is to try and share your music with people and share that experience with people. And even though the guitar amp might sound better with those tubes pushed, which every tube amp does,
yeah.
If it's so loud that people can't focus on your great guitar tone because their ears hurt, then,
right? Yeah,
and I'm no expert on this. I'm sure if there's people out there maybe going,
"Oh, you're an expert. You're an expert."
Well, I'm just saying. I'm sure there's people going, I've heard Cliff crank that amp a little too loud plenty of times, but yeah, it's just an important. I think it's and your awareness as a drummer of understanding that is crucial. Like even though these snare drum does not sound better with a towel on it, it's better than having it sound distracting in the venue.
Yeah. And we're a little over time, but I think no, that's fine. That's okay. I think this is really good conversations. So let's try to wrap it up in the next 10 minutes here. It's okay to go longer. I just try to blah, 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 blah. So speaking of, well, let's see. James says awareness, adjustment, and respect for the genre are essential. Many drummers consider country drumming easy when really about being musical, tasteful, and solid. Yeah. So somebody asked me on the show last week, I think, is it difficult to switch from playing like hard rock to playing country? Not now. There wasn't, but there is a certain feel to the drumming playing country music. There's little subtleties that happen in there. And also like how you tune the drums will be a little bit different, especially the snare drum. Has a different tonality to it. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to make those adjustments to make this more appropriate for what I'm doing. And James Harrison, he's been putting out these tips and tricks kind of drumming videos almost daily. But he did one talking about muting drums, like muffling drums. And there's this big debate amongst drummers on if you should, mute your drums or whatever. And that people will say, well, the only reason that you're muting your drums or putting gels on them is because you don't know how to tune. Well, in some circumstances, yes, that might be the case. But often you're trying to achieve a certain sound, and a lot of it has to do with the room that you're in. I talk to my students about this all the time because this room is made for drums to sound really great, to be recorded. And so most of the time, none of my drums have any muffling in it whatsoever, except for the kick drum has a very, very small pillow in it. Very, very small. But there's no gels or tape or anything on the snare drum or the toms or anything like that. However, when I've been tracking drums for different people, sometimes they want a very dry drum sound, and I'll put like the napkins, the fabric napkins off the table and put those on the drums and get that sound. It doesn't mean that I don't know how to tune. Well, yeah. I want a certain sound. And so playing in a venue where maybe I need to play quiet, I like to be really physical when I play, and I know that about myself. And so if I can make adjustments to the drums in a way that allow me to do that still, then I'll do that.
Yeah. That what came to mind was that Turnpike song I love so much. Unwrung has that intentionally super dry snare where I'm sure they had to have dampened that with something. I'm not a drummer or a drum engineer, but that was appropriate. I don't think it was a tuning issue. It sounded like they're going for kind of like a Dire Straits sound. I don't know, but
that's a great snare sound.
But I love that snare sound in that song. I think it was probably it wasn't. I think the dampening was intentional for quality.
Yeah, and it's just going for, it's like, what sound do you want, and what sound do you need? You know, if you're playing in a gymnasium, it's gonna, you know, you're echoing everywhere. That's really, really hard to control your live sound. So what can I do on my end to make that better? Play quieter. Maybe I mute my drums down. Maybe I detune my drums a little bit or whatever. I don't feel like I'm sacrificing my artistic license to be a part of the team.
Yeah.
That's to really just
you're being part of the team, the second part of that stuff.
Yeah. Greg says, I wasn't aware that a Mesa triple rectifier could be turned down.
That's all right.
Yeah. So before we go, what is your most favorite song that you've ever written, or your favorite song to perform that you've written?
That I've written.
Yeah, we want to talk about your original music.
My favorite song to perform is probably Hesitated. Hesitated or Forget Yesterday. We were talking about that last night. They're both just they're in a nice vocal range for one, but they're just fun songs. They have a nice drive to them. They're danceable. Which makes me kind of want to dance on stage. And they're both just songs that I can put anywhere in any set, and I smile when they pop up. Like, oh yeah, it's time for this one. Cool. And I like both those songs from a writing perspective, lyrically and performing. You know, sometimes you write I try not to write any lyrics that I'm ever going to hate to sing.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'll have something I'm really proud of the way it came out for whatever reason. From a writing perspective, Reckoning was maybe like the first country song. I'd written some other stuff before on our first EP, the Ground Blind EP, that I like all those too. But Reckoning always lyrically is fun for me to go through. And Gardena is another one. Both of those are a little darker. I write a lot of songs about my family and life experiences, and it comes out to a lot of happy songs, which I love. That's one of the reasons I like playing country. But those two, Gardena and Reckoning, are both a little darker in content, and so that story is kind of fun to play through in my mind when we do it. And they're both somewhat fictional and somewhat based on, you know, childhood stories. So they have some truth elements in them, and the dark I don't know. Replaying those stories in my mind is always kind of
Gardena, for example. Let's talk about Gardena for a moment. That's one of the ones that pop up for me in the set that I always really, really look forward to playing. It's got, if you haven't heard Gardena yet, you need to go to Spotify or Apple Music or whatever your streaming platform is. Find Cliff Miller Music, the song Gardena. It's dark. It's got this hypnotic bass line that's in it that goes through the whole song. That the rhythm of that bass part is so crucial to that song working for one. And it's, so I want, if you can elaborate, tell people what the song is about. And it's kind of like this, would you call it an urban legend for the Horseshoe Bend area?
Yeah. A guy had gone missing when I was a kid, and ended up, he had drowned. They found his, and when they found him, it was on the news, and it was just ruled a drowning. But just kind of through some associations and some rumors as kids, we'd heard that he was possibly thrown in the river.
That he was murdered.
Maybe he didn't jump in of his own accord, because he still had his boots on when they found him. So it is a dark song.
Yeah.
When I think about it, in the reality of it, it's a little chilling. But as kids, we kind of let our minds wander with what might have caused that. Like, who could he have? Who did he tick off?
Yeah.
Who did he get on the wrong side of? And as an adult, I was rehashing that story and kind of started filling in some of the blanks of what would maybe lead someone to that spot where someone wants to throw them in a river. That was all. Like I said, the cops ruled it an accident. That's actually one of the lines in the song. And I think, that's what it's understood as. But the song kind of developed a story of maybe he's seeing somebody's wife. Maybe he's got a illicit business, and maybe he's dealing drugs. Maybe something, he ticked off the wrong people. And here we are.
I've had so many people come up to me with questions about Gardena, and they've tried Googling it and tried to find like newspaper articles or anything that would unravel the mystery of this song. And I love the mystery of it, of the could have beens, or this could have happened kind of, all the online sleuths and detectives are trying to unravel this mystery where, it happened when you're a kid and then your adult mind kind of filled in the blanks, and, they may or may not be true.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really cool thing to have in your arsenal of songs.
Yeah. Thank you. And that's kind of probably one of the reasons I say I like it as a song I've written. It's a song that's, where maybe the other stuff is, some of the other songs are more factually based. There's always, there might be a little embellishment of like when I'm talking about being a kid, maybe a certain line fit better than Eric, not to derail, my good buddy Eric always, there's a line in June that talks about building a ramp and riding my bike off the dock at the Mill Pond in Horseshoe Bend. And Eric heard, he's like, you never did that. Like, you're right. We built a ramp at Parnell's and we rode off that, but it didn't sound as good as off the dock. So
it was something you did, just the location was different.
Yeah, I embellished to make it. But Gardena is a story that, like I said, it's a story.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
While there's inspirational elements of it, there's, it's fun to go through almost like a little kid. When I'm singing that, I'm kind of thinking back on the details of that. And it's a little more imaginative for me.
Well, I think you're absolutely right. When you're a kid, your imagination can take you places that your imagination doesn't seem to take you as an adult.
Yeah.
Because we become more and more grounded in reality. and as a kid, you can live in the fantasy land a lot easier. In the song Hanging on the Fridge, I love that you illustrate the factual part of being a kid and drawing pictures and that line that you said, and that's me, the dinosaur shooting fire from its eyes. It's like, I'm picturing your kids drawing you as a dinosaur and you have fire coming out of your eyes, and just the imagination of where kids go with their imagination. And then as an adult, Hanging on the Fridge is still being somewhat validated as an adult, like your works that you do, like who is appreciating those things, and do they appreciate it enough to put it on the fridge for the rest of the family to see, at least?
Yeah.
Or even for society to see. Like social media could be the fridge.
Yep.
And we put our stuff out there and hope that people recognize it and enjoy it as much as you do. So it's such a great song, and the way that those two worlds coexist in that song is, I think that's genius songwriting.
Oh, well, thank you. I knew I came here for a reason.
Get your wallet out. Get your wallet out.
Do you take Venmo for these compliments?
Yeah, I take Venmo.
Perfect.
I was told, make it easy for people to find you, make it easy for people to pay you,
and then charge them for compliments.
Yeah. I'm no dummy. Matt said he had to run, but enjoyed the talk. And then Gary Taggett. Gary, you're late to the party, man. We got to get together and have coffee, and I'll have Gary on this show too.
Fantastic.
It's my attention, as long as he doesn't ditch me. As long as he doesn't have a tire blowout. Okay, so just not real quick. You could be slow if you want. February 8th, my stomach is going.
Me too. Coffee on an empty stomach. Yeah, we have a symphony.
Yes. Who's playing cello in my belly? So February 8th, that's this coming Saturday.
Yep.
At the Sapphire Room. You can go to Cliff Miller Music here on Facebook or cliffmillermusic.com. Is it on the website?
Yes, it should be. The ticket
Sapphire
link
show
might not be on the website though.
Hey, if you guys have trouble finding a way to get tickets to the show, you can message me or Cliff directly, and we will personally answer your request on how to find tickets for that show.
Yep.
Easy solution. And then your music, is it just under Cliff Miller, or is it Cliff Miller Music on Spotify and those kind of things?
You should just be able to search Cliff Miller. There might be multiple Cliff Millers that release music on Spotify. In fact, I'm sure there is. But you can just search Cliff Miller on any of those platforms. Or if you really want to make it easy, at Cliff Miller Music. YouTube, if you search at Cliff Miller Music, that's the easiest way.
Yeah.
And YouTube is, I use Spotify a lot, but YouTube is a great platform for sharing music because you don't have to be signed up. You don't have to be you don't have to have a paid subscription to listen to the songs. Real quick on the show, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you've never been to Sapphire Room, it is just one of the best sounding rooms.
Definitely.
For a small to medium sized venue. I guess probably small venue. It's only about 150 people. The acoustics don't get better. It's just a really cool environment. It's kind of a dinner style venue.
Yeah. You can order food. It's not bar food. It's like really nice high end restaurant food. Yeah. Steaks, seafood.
You're at a table. The acoustics are amazing.
Yeah, there's not a bad seat in the house.
Not a bad seat, and the sound is amazing there. And it'll be first full band show back with Fred. We did play a private party last month. This will be the first public full band show since Fred broke his leg.
Yeah.
We'll have Alf there that night.
Mary put the ticket link in the comments.
Oh, thank you, Mary.
There you go. The producer's on it.
We'll have Michaela on fiddle, and Lainey will be joining us for several songs too, her sister Lainey. So this is always a super fun show. We try and pull out some extra stuff that we don't typically do at your typical bar show. We get to focus heavily on original music. Bass drums. Yeah, we do that, and that is a very cool. That sounds like a simple little thing, but that extra bass drum is a really cool added element. So we try and have this show have some, like I said, a couple new original songs, several covers you haven't heard us play yet, and then a great lineup of musicians. So.
Yeah. One thing that just sparked a quick little memory going back to like being on the team and being recognizing the situation and saying, how can I make this the best that I can? It's developing great relationships, not just with the people that you play music with, but the people that are running the venue or the bar or whatever. Like, do you become friends with the owner or friends with the talent buyer or friends with the bar staff or especially friends with the sound guy? Being friends with the sound guy is such an important relationship to have.
Oh, yeah.
Outside of doing sound for yourself. And even then, you got to have really great quality sound, live sound. Nothing, we're talking about stuff that's too loud. It's just having a great mix is really important. And so case in point is I've been around this game for quite a while, and I'm pretty well acquainted with the sound guys, especially locally. And I can make quick friends, if we're on the road too with sound guys. And sound guys also, you don't know what's happening in their world when you show up. You'd be like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, it's like, okay, well, I'll let you have your space. And then when there's an opportunity for him to kind of calm down a little bit, because you don't know what kind of sound guys are under a lot of stress, or they appear to be. So, I'm bringing a second bass drum to this show, which is out of the norm for me to do. And so I called up Kurt Sackett, who's going to run sound for us. And he's like, hey, Fred, how's it going? I said, hey, I just giving you a heads up that I'm bringing a second bass drum with me to the show. And so there'll be another input for that. And I said, I will bring a kick drum mic with it too, so you don't have to worry about having two kick drum mics and I think just when you talk to people and honestly and friendly, that they're willing to make those accommodations for you because they are friends with you and they want to be part of the team too. They want to help make the show successful. So relationships are so important.
Yeah. Really, really important. So I was just thinking of having I could go on. I could just spend my whole day here talking about music. We do this on drives.
Yeah.
I'm just thinking about how, like, having Mark there, because Mark's just got this contagious smile and he's so good at making friends. He's always I don't know he's just an easygoing dude.
Yeah, I love
He always
Mark.
has everybody in a good mood when we get, whether it's the sound people or the venue staff. He's just because I'm usually like walking around.
You're so cold.
I think people I've been told I have RBF, I think it's called. Everyone always thinks I'm mad. I'm not mad. It's just I was born with these eyebrows. I can't help but scowl. But so I'm always just kind of like working on the final touches of the show or working on the merch or whatever.
Yeah.
And Mark's able to be super helpful and have this just super friendly smile walking about the venue. And
he does.
I'm just thinking about like when I see him walk up, I'm like, yeah, it's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah. Mark is one of those people when you're around him, you're like, I want to be friends with that guy.
Yeah, which is super handy when you're talking to some frustrated sound guy that's had a tough day, to have someone like Mark that's able to ease those.
Mark
as opposed to me, that's like,
yeah.
What do I have to do next?
Where are my boxing gloves? Cliff, you don't need those. You don't need those. Watch this. Yeah, Mark, and Mark, generally speaking, always has his wife Gina in tow, and so she's known in the Cliff Miller circle as Band Mom.
That's for all those good snacks.
They are such giving people, and it's just we should talk about Mark a lot.
Well, that's kind of a funny segue, but as you're talking about trying to make those venue relationships, that's another responsibility the band has, is to understand what the venue staff is dealing with when you get there, to try to be try and fit into their daily routine and not just walk in and trample on it. Yeah. And as you're explaining that, I'm picturing shows, and I'm just picturing, like I said, Mark walking in with that big smile, and it's having that right attitude when you come in. I don't even know how we got on that conversation, but because you're talking about Kurt and how accommodating Kurt is and easy to work with. Yeah. And it made me think about that, like having the right musicians that understand that, like, we're here to be a part of the night.
Exactly.
We're not here to interrupt these people's day job.
Yeah, for sure. I just how you conduct yourself is so important to everybody's day, not just your own. And having that. So Dale Walker says Kurt is great. He's our sound guy at the Sapphire Room too. Yeah, he is. I agree 100%, Dale. There's Kurt's great. There's a lot of really great sound engineers around town. One of my favorite ones is Sonny, Steve Taylor, nickname is Sonny. And he's just this even keel. We're going to make this work for you guys. And there's no reason, his perspective is there's no reason to be getting uppity about anything.
Yep.
And he's worked with the best of the best. He used to be the sound guy for Prince. He runs sound for Lou Gramm and tours with Lou Gramm. And not only is his personality top notch, his knowledge and his ability to mix is bar none. It's just really incredible.
And he's super knowledgeable and super honest. He gave me some really direct feedback the first time I ever worked with him, and it was super helpful. It wasn't mean or nice, I would say. It was just like, hey, you need to fix these couple
matter
things.
Of fact.
Yeah, matter of fact.
Yeah.
You need to fix these couple issues.
And I think when people feel that they can tell you something like that, it's not to ridicule you or put you down. It's like, I really like this guy. Hey, if you do these things, you're going to up your game substantially. Yeah. And when it comes from somebody like him, you go, okay.
Yeah, I really valued it, because this guy he works with Lou Gramm. He's seen everything. So if he gives me a piece of advice, I'm going to take it.
Well, and it's also obvious, case in point, like, if he's not good at what he does, he doesn't have those gigs that he does. He wouldn't be the sound guy for Lou Gramm.
Yeah.
He wouldn't have worked for Prince. He wouldn't, and I mean countless others. I mean, but those are two that I think of off the top of my head when talking about Sonny, is just his experience. So it's great stuff. So be a part of the solution. Don't be a part of the problem. And it's really, sometimes it's hard to do, to train ourselves to not have knee-jerk reactions to things and just like, I'm just going to throw it all away. Because usually the knee-jerk reaction is one that you're going to regret.
Yep. Yeah, if you can take a minute and address.
You've never done that, I'm sure.
Everyone knows uneven keel, always in a good mood.
Yeah. Well, hey, Cliff, thank you for being up so early to join me.
Yeah, thanks for having me
on my podcast. I broke my leg in August, so I have like this Cliff withdrawal, because it's been like, normally when we're playing, I think we do like 60 to 70 some shows a year at least, on average, and so we spend a lot of time in the car.
Yep.
Just like we are right now, but typically you're the one driving. and we get to just talk about anything and everything, and it's really, really great, and I have really missed that.
Yeah,
really missed that.
Like I said, I could forget that we're doing this right now. If I just had a steering wheel here, we could,
yeah,
because this is basically what we do on the road. We talk about music.
Here, you could hold this like it was a steering wheel, and you could be pretending like a
Cliff, watch the road.
What? Yeah, This is awesome.
Why aren't you looking at the road?
Well, hey, everybody, thank you for hanging out. If you made it this far, congratulations. We love you. And if you're on YouTube, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the fun. And it's great stuff. Make sure you go follow Cliff Miller Music on Facebook and on Instagram and Spotify and start spinning his songs. You will not be disappointed at all. Not be disappointed whatsoever. Really great stuff. So thanks for being here. I'm going to hit end stream here in a second, and we can fill our coffee cups.
Sounds good.
Okay, guys, have an amazing day, and be good to everybody. All right.
See ya.
See you, Gary.